What's up, guys? Listen, before I start this video, let me say this. Slavery is terrible. I think that goes without saying, but somebody's gonna leave me something in the comments saying, oh, slavery's terrible, obviously. And for those of you that don't know, there's more slaves today than there's ever been. And the word slavery is synonymous with African Americans in America, in American history. But guys, all kinds of people, like I said, even today, have been slaves. A lot of people's descendants have been slaves. And also what I need to say is, as an African American, I know my lineage, I know my heritage. I'm from Rochester, New York. I know about Frederick Douglass. He's from there. He lived in Rochester. We had underground railroads in Rochester, New York. We have a lot of stuff, historic stuff, and I learned all about it when I watched the movie Roots. And when I was a kid, I was angry, and I went through all those things because I was brainwashed by the mainstream media, the narrative, and the victimhood mentality. But that's not what this video is about. I don't care what kind of slave you were, but let's just talk about the famous slavery, the African Americans in America. And again, I'm not no victim. But, my grandmother, God rest her soul, she's the one that raised me. My dad's parents, but in particular my grandmother. She was very hands-on with me. And she was from Mississippi, and she picked cotton from sunup till sundown. That's what time she started work, when they could see, and they stopped work when they couldn't. And so she escaped the South, and she came up to Rochester, New York in the 1950s when real racism was going on. That's why I'll never say anything about racism, because I know what it's about. I'm 48 years old, and I went through a little bit as a kid in the 80s and stuff like that, but nowhere near what my parents and my grandparents did before me. And when she came up here, she worked as a hotel maid. She cleaned houses cleaned rooms and stuff like that. Met a lot of famous people back then. Rochester was a very smoking town with celebrities and from any kind of entertainment. I'm talking about movies, musicians, whatever. She met them all, and it was very humbling for her. She'll show me all kind of pictures and stuff. That's how I learned how to deal with a lot of celebrities here in Vegas. There's a lot of them. I just saw a boxer when I left out of the place I was at, and I've seen him before. We talked a few times. I'll make a video about that. So she got a job a few years later after that, because she was in the ghetto, but she worked her ass off. She worked her ass off because this work was nothing compared to what she did down south in Mississippi, picking cotton from sun up to sundown. And when they, got off of work at 5 o'clock or 4 o'clock or whatever, she's just like, wow, this is easy. I get off early and I come in late. And she got to end up getting a job at Kodak. Now, for those of you that don't know, Kodak is a big Rochester thing. You guys know Kodak, obviously, but Rochester, Kodak is the home of Rochester. Rochester is the home of Kodak, excuse me. And Xerox, too. And she worked there a long time, and she was the hardest worker in that place. And for me to watch her every day, it was amazing, man. But that's all I knew was hard work. And my grandmother, because I'm naturally lazy. My father, biologically speaking, I got my laziness from him, even though I didn't know him. I didn't grow up with him. He was a street guy. He was in the streets. When I finally got to really meet him in my 20s, I found out he was a very lazy man. And I'm so glad that my grandmother raised me, because she didn't give me anything. If I asked her for some money, she said, what do you need it for? And when are you going to give it back to me? And why can't you go get it? You're a 10-year-old kid. Go out there and cut some grass, blah, 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 blah. So she taught me the value of hard work and not asking or depending on anybody for anything. And I took those values and I went on into the military. She ended up retiring in 1991. She passed away in 2005. My grandmother wasn't an educated woman. She just wasn't educated. You know what I mean? She didn't go to schools. She could read and stuff like that, but she just wasn't, you know, that educated. And as far as society goes, she wasn't that smart. But what she was very wise. And to this day, I'm still cracking the codes of some of the things she used to teach me, and it's just now hitting me today. I work my ass off, ladies and gentlemen. For those of you that don't know, I know I have a few new subscribers on here. I was in the military. I receive a military pension. I have assets, investments that I've invested in that pay me, you know, on a weekly and monthly basis and stuff like that. And so I'm not rich, far from it, but I am. I'm pretty good. I'm financially free. So in other words, all the income that I got coming in, whether I work or not, from my assets that I invested in, my investments, and my military pension and stuff like that, well covers my bills and more. So I'm what you call financially free, meaning I don't have to work to pay my bills. And a lot of people will just sit around and be happy with that. Not me. You got to go out there and work like a slave. My grandmother told me stories about slaves because she knew some slaves as a kid, and you know, she was born in the late 20s, early 30s era, around there. So she knew of some slaves when she was a kid, and she heard a lot of stories from her grandmother. And the thing about being a slave back then, and again, I'm not picking any kind of, you know, color or anybody's ethnic background. It's just what I'm talking about today, because everybody's so familiar with it, is that they had to work, again, from sun up to sundown, but they didn't get to pick what they wanted to, or what they had to work on. Whatever the plantation they worked on, whether it was a tobacco plantation, whatever kind of plantation, or whatever kind of work they did on that plantation, they had no choice. And my ancestors had to get up and work for scraps, you know, and they were enslaved. And again, slavery was terrible. We know that, okay? And they didn't choose what they had to do, you know what I mean? And they didn't complain. They just worked, and they had a roof over their head, and they had food, you know, scraps of food, and they lived their life and whatever. But they were there to work. You know, they were there to work. And the farther and farther we get away from that, generations, you know, the easier life becomes for everybody, which means the lazier everybody becomes, right? I have a mentality that I work like a slave, except the difference is I get to pick what I want to do and I don't have to do it. And that's powerful. You know, it's powerful when you don't have to work, but you still work anyways. And when I think about, again, my particular ancestors that went through what they went through, I just imagine that stuff, you know what I mean? I just imagine what they had to do, what they were thinking and stuff like that. And all they wanted was freedom. And my channel is called Jerry Loves Freedom, you know? And as hard as this is to believe, I work to have freedom, you know? Sometimes I work 18-hour days. Sometimes I work 12, sometimes I work 16. I've worked 24-hour days before in different capacities in my life. Like in particular now when I do DoorDash on the side now. You know, I sell silver. I go to different estate sales. I go to garage sales. I do a lot of stuff, man. You know, I make these videos. And by the way, real quick, commercial. That inflation video I made, I worked really hard on that. And this is not about me, it's about the message. But please, guys, can you share that video with as many people as you can, because I have a copyright claim on there. See, YouTube likes to put little things on my channel, so I can't spread the message, because what I say they don't want people to know. So, and if you don't want to share my particular video, at least share Milton Friedman's inflation documentary with people, because they need to know that. It's very, very important. Okay, it's not about me, it's about the message. But anyways, you got to work your ass off. So I work like 24 hours a few times. I work 18 hours, 19 hours, because I got a hard time sleeping. You know, I just do sometimes, and I just work my ass off. My DoorDash money. Sometimes I make 30 bucks, 40 bucks, but I've been stepping it up a little bit. I put something else to the side, and I've been trying to make about 100 to 150 bucks a day. Now this is after expenses, it's after gas and stuff like that, a day, so I can buy Bitcoin and some Satoshis, because I know the market is down right now, and Bitcoin's getting ready to take off, and I'll talk about that in another video. But my message to you is this: if you have a job, a full-time job, and you're just coming home and you're just sitting on the couch, and that job is the only income you got coming in, and if you stop working that job and your savings are only, I don't know, a year or 2 years of expenses, monthly expenses, and you're sitting around watching videos or playing video games or watching sports or hanging out. I mean, again, guys, you can do that stuff, but everything in moderation. The bad stuff in moderation. And what's bad stuff? Anything that keeps you from making an income or getting closer to your dreams. Now, this video is mostly for men, but as a man, you know, we want to live forever. We want our legacy to last forever. The only way you're going to do that is you got to pass something down. It's not always about money, but that's a big thing. But with the money comes the information. That's the main reason I make these videos, so my grandkids and my great grandkids can go back and watch these videos. Wouldn't it be cool for you guys to watch videos of your great granddad or great grandmother and talking to you about what's going on and how to live your life and what was going on at that time? Work your ass off, ladies and gentlemen. Work like a slave. Every time I think I'm working hard, I just look at guys like David Goggins or Kobe Bryant or something like that, and I'm like, I got to step my game up, man. And it's funny, I was doing a DoorDash last night. It was really, really slow last night, really slow. And they direct you to a hot spot to go to. So I went to a hot spot, and there were 2 other people there. And I talked to one guy, and I'm not making fun of him or nothing like that, but he was like, oh, man, he's just complaining. Oh, it's slow tonight. Nothing's going on. I'm just sitting there listening to him like, He's like, man, I'm about to call it quits. And I'm like, how long you been out here? Oh, I've been out here for about 30 minutes. If you want to win in today's world, guys, and be successful, it's very easy, because everybody's fucking lazy, man. Everybody's lazy. I live in Las Vegas, Nevada. Most of you guys know that. For those of you that don't, that's where I live. It's a party town. And fortunately for me, I get a lot of benefits out of that. But unfortunately, a lot of people know that I live here, including you guys and my family and friends, and they come out here and they want to party every single week. Since I've been here, I shit you not, every single week somebody hits me up and says, hey man, can we hang out and blah blah blah, you know, because they're here to party. It's different for me. I'm here to work. This is a vacation for people. This is how I make my living. Now, I'm not saying I haven't seen people since I've been here, because I have, but if you ever ask to see me, I'm not saying I can't. You know, maybe I can go and meet you real quick at the coin shop or something like that. But I'm busy, man, because I'm working my ass off. You know what I mean? And I suggest you do that too. So the moral of the story is this: slavery is bad. We know that. But slavery is good for you today, because if you want to leave something for your children, you got to work your ass off now and show them the discipline it takes to do that. I feel like I'm in a rare air, because a lot of people aren't doing what I do. Not just because I work hard and all that. It's because of, you know, my ethnicity and the things that I'm into. There's not a lot of African American silver stackers. There are some, but not a lot. Not a lot of African American people that stack Bitcoin. There are, but not a lot. But there's definitely not a lot of African Americans that stack silver and Bitcoin and work their ass off. So you need to separate yourself from everybody else, because this world is soft and you can do it. You can do it. All you got to do is outwork them. Take those cuck bucks, turn them into some real money, and do what you got to do to leave a legacy for your future grandkids, your family today, and the people you love in the future. Work your ass off, work like a slave, except you get to choose what kind of work you do. I love each and every one of you, and I'll talk to you soon. Peace and love, guys.